Hey Rachel, good evening. How are you?
Good. I am good. It's been a day. Glad it's almost over.
It's been a day, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for the benefit of the people that have already walked in, shall we just start?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Mirit Hoffman. I'm an elder law lawyer and a gerontologist, and my main focus is helping senior citizens when they reach significant crossroads in their life, mainly talking about wills and enduring power of attorneys and trusts and advising on estate planning regarding people with dual citizenships, mainly US and Israel. Rachel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is Rachel Weinstein, and I am a licensed clinical social worker, licensed in both Israel and the state of Illinois. And I work with people dealing with a variety of transitions, whether it's related to age, related to gender, sexuality, um, any sort of mental health issues. I'm EMDR trained, and yeah, and I meet with people on Zoom and in my very little office. So that's what I do.
And we, Rachel and I, have a podcast series called Caring for an Aging Parent. And
Yes.
today is actually our eighth session together. Do you know that?
Woo!
Very awesome.
Woo!
And today we're going to be talking about living longer, benefits and burdens. And Rachel, why don't you start with that?
Okay. So I've been working with a gentleman who's been married for many, many decades at this point, and his wife a few years ago was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, or so he was told by the doctors. And as his wife's condition declines, um, he's got caregivers, he's got family members who are helping, he's doing all the things he needs to do, but you know, for him to watch his wife decline and become, dare I say, kind of a shell of herself, to need more and more help for toileting, for communication, for eating, it breaks his heart. He's going to be there. I don't have any doubts that he will be there. He's already been there through the thick and thin, and obviously, just I'll add to that. I'm changing up some details for the sake of anonymity and confidentiality. Um, and even with all the help that they need, he struggles emotionally. It's really difficult for him. And so he and his wife went to, her doctor to just get an evaluation to see how things are progressing or not. And and he told me after the appointment that he got news that he didn't quite know what to do with. And he said, I felt like a monster. He felt like a monster because it turns out that his wife's physical decline actually, she's not declining as quickly or as severely as they once thought. Her condition isn't Parkinson's, it's like Parkinson's adjacent. And she is expected to live longer than they had originally believed. And he said, on one hand, the thought of having his wife, for so many more years was, oh, thank God, I could be with the woman I love. On the other hand, he thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be caring for her in this state for even longer. And that's when he said he felt like a monster. How could I be anything other than grateful? How could I be feeling sorry for myself when she's the one in the chair and needs all this care? And he was just absolutely torn apart. And we, at least in that session, we were able to work towards at the very minimum, accepting that it's not, nothing he was thinking or saying to himself made him a monster, but it didn't really alleviate him of those feelings of the struggle there. And I imagine that it was, and I told this to him too, that it was painful because he doesn't want his wife to die. He wants her to live, but he wants her to live healthy. But who am I to decide how she's going to live and what does that mean? And there are no answers. It's just the struggle that they both have to live with. In addition, she is, I'd say, decently aware from what he's explained of her condition and her decline, and has even been able to communicate to him that she's sorry he has to do all of this, which makes it, even more brutal for him. Again, he's very aware that he's the quote unquote lucky one. He's not the one with the illness, but he's the one taking care of his beloved. And and it's incredibly painful. And the other piece, and then I'll ask you to say what you were going to say, is that um, on one hand, okay, so the diagnosis is it's not great, but it's not at the level they initially thought it was. That also means that as she gets older, there may be newer treatments, medications, interventions that are available. So on one hand, again, modern medicine, it's amazing. You can live longer. And not but, and what do you do when the potential, risks or engaging, excuse me, in those interventions means that you're going to live longer, but in an even more compromised state. It's a very, very painful reality, for many, many couples, and in this case, this couple in particular. So,
Wow, I have a few thoughts that I was gonna that came to mind. First of all, life is so many different shades of gray. There's no black and white, there's no right or
right,
wrong, there's no good or bad, and there's no wonderful and happy. And it's not like he's not a monster, he's a person. He's just a human
right,
being.
absolutely,
And the emotions that come up are so normal. I'm sure he's not the only one that feels the same in all
right,
these scenarios that happen for couples. And it doesn't mean he doesn't love her. It just means that it's hard.
right,
And the other thing I was thinking of was, as a lawyer, I was thinking, wouldn't it have been nice if they had a durable power of attorney that she had prepared in advance for these kind of scenarios where she would have said, for example, if things become really hard, I will be totally fine if I am moved to a facility because I love you, because I want to be with you, but because I want you to be happy. And maybe that, just as a thought, could be something that they could both, would help them, meaning they would still be a
right,
couple, they would still love each other, but he wouldn't have to deal with the nitty-gritty of just even being in the house, even if he's not the one picking her up and doing stuff, but he's in the house
right,
with her and the caregiver all the time, every single day. She's moved somewhere
right.
where she gets the best help possible. You know, maybe that would have been something that they would have discussed beforehand that they could have worked with.
I think that it definitely could have made a difference. I know also that when I speak to him that he's not willing to give up that care, and she enjoys it, whatever that means, because this is my husband. So on this is a very practical, largely, practical couple. And so I think it's yes, having all of those documents in place before, and that is the reason we need those documents in place. On the other hand, they're in love. They have children and grandchildren, and I think a great grandchild. I mean, they're a very, very well-oiled machine. So neither of them is, she can still communicate. So neither of them is quite ready to say, okay, we'll part ways. They still enjoy sleeping in the same bed. They still enjoy seeing each other. So it's in that way, I think, therapeutic for both of them. But um he has also accepted caregiver help, even though he doesn't love it, because he never had to help his wife to the bathroom. And now, when he does help her to the bathroom, sometimes he needs the caregiver. And, let's, call it like it is respectfully. When you're intimate with your spouse, you don't generally say, I need a caregiver to come and help. And
Right.
that's not the intimate that we're talking about. But still, it's a very real part of their lives. And so I think one of the other things that really came up for me is not only, she's the very she never wanted to be the star of this show.
Mhm.
The reality is that if she continues to live longer than was anticipated, what if he gets sick? Look, as we get older, the chances of things falling apart they increase.
Absolutely.
Who will take care of him? What if they both need care? Who's the responsible party? You have a bunch of children. Who's going to be the primary? Where are they going to live? The financial pieces. How much money can you go through before the house is no longer yours? I mean, these are real will we both live in a facility? What if we're at different levels of care? Can we even live in the same room? I mean, these are not the things I think that any of us, when and if we get married, think under our chuppah or at our wedding ceremony. Gee, I wonder where we're going to live in 50 years if one of us is sick. That's be a little morbid to think of it at that point. But it's playing out for this couple. And it's the emotions for him are just, I mean, he loves her with everything. And he'll admit when days that are hard, and he may get frustrated and he may yell, I can't do this anymore, and then apologize to his wife. And he's trying to hang out and, go to the gym, go on the treadmill a little bit with his buddies. Like he is really like all the things we say, take care of yourself this way and get a caregiver and put this together. And yet the reality is it's still um it's just there's no answer to this. It's just a very it brings up topics of like what interventions, if they get offered, would they want to pursue. It's just so much. It's just so much.
100%. But it's actually, as long as they can both talk about it and or
Mhm.
communicate, talking maybe is a bigger word, but maybe communicate about it,
Hmm. Right,
about all those things that may happen in the future. If he may get ill as well as her, when should they, call it a day about living in the house? When should they be moved to facility? Can they
right.
move to the same facility? Can they not move to the same facility? And then what happens? Who's going to take care of them? All those really, really, really important questions. Even if she
Hmm.
can no longer sign on legal documents for that, having the discussion and actually having a discussion maybe with the children, all of them,
Hmm.
is
Right,
very important, even if there isn't a good
right,
enough answer, but just making sure that they are aware of the train of thought that they have as parents would be extremely
right,
helpful for the children later.
right, right. Yeah, I was gonna say something and it went right out of my head. Oh, sure it'll come back. That it tends to do that at this hour. Um, yeah. Oh, another piece, for them as well is, and for some families this is also a significant piece, and others it's just not. It's the religious aspect. How do we deal with, you know, let's say an intervention is introduced. What can we stop? What don't we stop? What should we start, altogether? If, I'm talking medical stuff. And I remember the other thing too is that um he's been living, and the whole family's been living with this Parkinson's adjacent kind of illness for, I'm sure, it seems like a lot longer. I don't want to say it's just a few years because it's not my life or my spouse. Um, but he had started to allow himself to wrap his head around the fact that this is really his life now. This is it. This is really how life is right now, and that his wife's going to decline, and that at some point he will be a widower. And he was trying to be realistic, not certainly not trying to make it happen any sooner, but this is my life and let me try to be a little bit practical. And started to even sort of flirt with the idea of it shouldn't happen for a while, but when it does, maybe I'll travel. Maybe I could do that. Now, he wasn't running out the door and saying, forget you, but trying to make some sense of life for himself too.
Right.
And that also made him feel like a monster. And then when the doctor said she's probably going to live a little bit longer than we thought, then he, on one hand, oh no, I can't travel. Oh my gosh, what kind of person am I that I would say that? No matter, even understanding and intellectually, his emotions were just, it was painful. It was painful to watch him express it. And it was, I'm sure, far more painful for him to express it to me. Um,
100%. Look, the fact that
yeah.
he could express it to you is a good thing because he could,
Mhm.
share his emotions.
Right,
Yeah, look, life is complicated. Life is complicated, but who said that he cannot go for a little trip, like a 4-day thing, and just, even now, for a little bit, just for a little break. It's not like making him into a monster if he just leaves her for a
right.
little bit and comes
And
back
and
feeling much more
right,
refreshed and able to help her.
right. And he's started to think about maybe he'll visit his daughter, who lives in England. Maybe I'll go visit my daughter a couple of days. Like like maybe I can do that. And part of it is also not just feeling, like a monster, but is it okay being it? I gave him, quote unquote, I gave him permission. It's not for me to say, but that's, oftentimes, people come to the therapist like, is it okay if I do that? Yes, it's okay. It's okay if you take care of yourself and, go to London and see a show or visit, other relatives. That's fine. I think he's just at the beginning of giving himself that permission.
Right.
um and then again, wow, she's gonna live longer. I'm so glad, and I don't even know what to do with myself. Does that mean that I'm gonna get sicker with her? It's look, again, like I said, there's no like, okay, just do this and this is the answer. But I think it's a reality, that even with all the proper interventions, medical, legal, social, emotional, all the things in place. Unfortunately, there are things that are bigger than us that may happen. And yeah, I'm glad that they have a very loving family, and that they're he's got a terrific sense of humor, which helps immensely. And they have a caregiver that they appreciate. It's hard also for him with the caregiver because, again, whatever life you have with your spouse is intimate. When it's just the two of you in your house, it's just the two of you. You could be sitting and watching TV. You could be sitting and eating dinner. Um, but now he feels, I had to welcome this stranger into my house because I can't physically do everything. And very much respects the caregiver's cultures and traditions, and like, we keep kosher. You can eat whatever you eat in your room. You can cook in your on your little, hot plate. It's fine, totally fine. But he said, the smell of curry. He gets it. The caregiver is, I think, from India or, nearby, and cooks with a lot of curry. And he said, I get it. But now I never have the smell of curry in my house. And it may seem silly, like, okay, like, dude, it's curry, get over it. But it's not silly. It's his space has been invaded. It's been invaded by this illness. It's been invaded by this person who he knows he needs. But it's not just curry. It's the presence of all of it and what it symbolizes. It's a lot of it's a lot to adjust to, a lot to swallow.
Yeah, I think 100%. It's a lot to adjust and it's complicated. And the
Very
fact that
much.
he's aware that it's complicated and that he can talk to people, understand that it's complicated, and be kind to himself in this complication and try and
Right.
find ways to make it less, I don't know if complicated is the
Complicated.
right word, but just to make it, maybe to give him some more relief. If it's going to
Right.
London to visit his daughter, if it's going to the gym, maybe, twice a week instead of just once a week. If
Right.
it's
Right.
acknowledging the fact that it's okay to feel like your privacy has been invaded and it's okay to feel bad about it. It doesn't
Hmm.
reflect on your relationship with your wife. It doesn't reflect the fact that you don't love her is
Right.
huge. The fact that he can do.
Right. Right. And being able to admit, and I think, even in front of their children, this is really hard. I love your dad. Excuse me. I love your mom, Miss Setta. I love your mom with everything I have. And this is really hard. And this is really, really hard. It's and he tries to go to the gym to make sure, like, I gotta stay healthy too. And um it's wonderful that, yes, that the her Parkinson's is not at the level they thought it once was. And it's also, look, I'm sure it's also pretty, a bit unnerving, I should say, for her. I don't meet with her, but what must it be like to know you're going to live longer the way you are? That's, I think, something that hopefully the staff that work with her can, help her navigate too. because that's quite the pill to swallow.
Absolutely.
So,
She also has to deal with what that reality means for her and to find, the good things that may, bring. I have more time with my children. I have more time to see grandchildren. Maybe I can write them letters somehow. Maybe I can record myself. Maybe I could, I
right,
don't know,
right,
paint them a picture and, give that to them, to open up
right,
in their, I don't know, mid 40s so that they have something from their mom at that stage.
right,
100%,
right,
100%.
right, right. So it's a beautiful and bittersweet kind of experience to be the therapist, to give him, he's a couple of years older than I am, and give him the permission to say it's okay to live. You don't have to curl up. It's okay that you're living. It's a good thing. But still, she's his one true love. It's really beautiful. And there are days when excuse me, when he says, he's like, I have got to get out for fresh air because the walls are closing in. And on the other hand, there are days when he has said, I want to just spend time with my wife. And it's not always bad all the time. Um, but there are a lot of days. So having these conversations with our families, making sure that we have good support, and not just for something like this, that there's good emotional support in our lives. If you treat people well, you tend to get treated well. So be kind to people, and also they should be kind to you, and build up those support systems before they have to be put to the test. Um, and and make sure that you're as healthy mentally and physically as you can. Nothing's a guarantee. Making sure your finances are in order. Again, everything to the best of your ability. Everything to the best of your ability. Not preparing for doomsday, but God forbid if even mini doomsday comes, you're not going to be homeless or anything like that. Um, but yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster for sure.
And I will add just from the legal point of view, make sure you have your estate planning in place, have your durable power of attorney, have your will. Make sure, as you said, your finances, but not just that, make sure you have a list of where everything is for yourself, for your children, for your spouse, whoever's left, so that, they know where everything is, how to contact people. Where is the insurance for the house? Who deals with the car stuff, silly things that are not going to be so silly when you're no longer around
Right.
and have all the passwords. So all those things while you can and have the hard discussions with the family and the children. And the most important thing I think from all this is to realize that it's not black and white and just to be kind to yourself. It's okay.
It's right. Right. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to be happy you got out of the house. It's okay to be frustrated that this is your life. It's okay to be frustrated that, his wife, couldn't say that she needed to go to the bathroom in time. It's okay to say, I love you and you're adorable because that's what you used to say to your wife, before. It's you make new rules to your relationship, but hopefully they're based on strong ones and a strong foundation from before you even started. So,
That's actually true. And that's actually, I think that's actually what I would like to leave with. I mean, if you have a strong pillars of relationship before, then you will manage to survive. And also, if you get yourself a lot of help and not to be embarrassed or feel not okay by getting help, also
right,
extremely, extremely important.
right. No one wins the Martyr Olympics.
Exactly.
Oh, I schlepped her 12 times, and what? Now you're in traction. What, you want a prize for that? I mean, like, don't don't disable yourself to say, see, I didn't need help, because you did. I'm not saying it's easy, and it's much easier for me to say, and I'm certain that it is humbling and painful and obnoxious and frustrating. But how good does traction feel? Or a broken bone, or being laid out on your back where you really have no choice? Don't, you know, you, we all like to think we're, Superwoman or Superman, but we're not. We're real people. And we bend and we break too.
true. So basically, as I think the message should be kind to yourself. It's not enough to just be kind to the person that you love. Be kind to yourself
Right.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really
Right.
important.
Right.
Okay, well, Rachel, this was very informative, very
Thank you.
sort of thought-provoking, I think this session actually was.
Yeah.
We don't really have an answer here. There's no really right or
Right.
wrong here. It's just something to think.
Right. Right. And I think it's, not to sound incredibly cliche, but it's part of the human condition. But love conquers all. Okay, yeah, often, often, but sometimes you need a caregiver to help, and
Absolutely.
you need, to be really, you need, you know, we give a lot of lip service, so you got to take care of yourself. But it's not lip service if we don't, put on your oxygen mask first. That's every airplane you've ever been on, right?
Right.
And first time I heard that when I was a brand new mommy, which was many, many years ago, and I remember thinking, oh, okay, my baby. Now she's still my delicious, wonderful adult child, but when I realized, wow, if I'm dead, I can't help her. Oh, that's why I should put my oxygen mask on first. Uh-huh. Then it made sense. Then it's not selfish. Then it's
Right.
healthy and the right thing to do. So put
100%.
on your oxygen mask first.
100%. Put on your oxygen. I like that. Okay.
Okay. All righty.
Well, this was very, again, thought-provoking. If
Thought
anybody
provoking.
has any questions about this, and you're very free to speak to Rachel or to myself. Rachel, would you want to give out your
Have to.
phone number, contact info?
Sure. My number is 052-874-5589. And you can reach me by email at rweinstein, WEINSTEIN, MSW @gmail.com. Right. So rweinstein, MSW @gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you very
And
much for
you?
joining us. Thank you very
How do
much.
we reach you? How do we reach you?
Oh, my number is 052. I think I actually forgot my number. 052-407-999. And my email is actually pretty easy. It's mirit@lawmirit.com. Um,
Perfect.
so in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Rachel, for joining
Thank
us
you.
again.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night. Don't forget to share this
Yes.
episode with anyone that you feel that could benefit from it. And looking forward to seeing you all in our next talk on caring for an aging parent. Have a good night.
All righty. Take care. Good night.